Hey everyone, it's Melissa with the M Word. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kiddos. I have an 8-year-old, a 3.5-year-old, and basically a 2-year-old. She turns 2 next month. And we're in our 4th year of homeschooling. Today is a collaboration with the Chan 7, and we are going over our homeschool regrets. I will leave a link to her channel below, as well as the playlist with all the other moms and the things that we kind of regret in our homeschool. And I will be honest, one of the very first things I regret is trying to do it on my own. I started 4K right when the whole COVID thing started, and I decided I was going to do this as cheaply as possible because we could not afford a homeschool curriculum, and we couldn't, and we still can't. And I will get into that because I know we use one of the more expensive kits. We just don't have the budget monthly to add in a homeschooling curriculum that is expensive. So I was like, everybody says I can do it online. I can do it by myself. I don't need to spend any money to do this. And one of my biggest regrets is that first year was exhausting for me. We had a new baby. Riker was just barely a baby. Callie was 4. And I did not have the time to be putting together a curriculum. I thought that there was zero reason to get a curriculum. She was only in 4K. It's not important. I had a bunch of people from one end telling me that she's only in 4K. Why even do school? Let her be. But the thing is she had come from school. She had been in school for 3 years prior. She went to early childhood for 2 years, and then she went to 4K at school before COVID happened, and I pulled her from school. Well, school shut down, and then I pulled her from school. But she had already been in a school setting, so I was trying to recreate a school setting at home. And it didn't work. It didn't work. So not only was I trying to pull together an entire unit, like an entire curriculum for 4K on my own, while trying to meet whatever she was already doing in school, while trying to raise a newborn, while trying to run a homeschool daycare, because I was insistent that I could still run my in-home daycare that I had been doing for 2 years prior, or for a year prior to that. I was like, oh, I gave up everything to run this daycare because I wanted to run a daycare. I was like, I can do both. I can totally do both. I cannot. You cannot have a newborn, run a daycare, and homeschool your child. I mean, you probably could, but when I could not. I couldn't do it. It was too much for me. Especially in the middle of a pandemic, it was too much. It's one of my biggest regrets. I probably could have done much more for my child, all my children, and my daycare if I had just bought a together curriculum. If I had just bought a together curriculum, it would have been fine. And part of me not wanting to just not have a curriculum for her was because I have a curriculum for my daycare. The state requires me to have a plan every day what I'm teaching the children. And if I had to have lesson plans for a baby, why wouldn't I have to have a lesson plan for my 4-year-old that was already in school for 3 years prior to that? Like, it made no sense to me why I wouldn't need that. I didn't. My now 4-year-old barely, he has a curriculum because I had it purchased for my daycare after the fact. I don't follow it like I was trying to follow when my daughter was 4 and I was trying to make my own curriculum. The following year, for her kindergarten year, I took our tax return and I bought 3 Timberdoodle kits. I bought the Tiny Tot kit and I bought the preschool kit because I was still insistent I was keeping my daycare open, and I was like, that takes all of my lesson planning away for my daycare, as well as buying a kindergarten kit for my daughter, taking that off my plate as well. So all my stresses were gone is what my thought was. I was like, I got this now. So we had that, and we did use our tax return to buy those 3 kits. We still to this day wait for our tax return to buy our Timberdoodle kits. I pull aside any money that we get from our tax return. It all goes into a savings account, and that money is pulled from all year long for field trips, anything I come across curriculum-wise that we want, etc., etc. My husband does work, and he does purposely put more into taxes than probably necessary to make sure that there is a chunk of change for me to use every tax season. It's probably would be just as easy for me to let him not have a tax return and save that money every month and have it there, but this way I know it's there. This way it works for us. We know that it's there, and that it's just how we budget for it. It just works for us. I know there's 100 reasons why not to have a tax return. I get it. I was an accounting major. I started my MBA before I stopped. Like, I'm well aware that there is 100 reasons not to have a tax return, but this is what works for us, so that's what I do. But that kindergarten year was a bit of a flop too. My daughter tested above in math, so I went ahead and got her first grade math, and I went ahead with her kindergarten curriculum. Now, where I went wrong with the curriculum that we had got kindergarten-wise was all about reading. What I did wrong was not stick with it. I had gotten in pre-K, I got her teach your child to read in 1,000 days or something, 1,000 words, something, 1,000 something or less or something days. That book. I think you guys all know which book I'm talking about. I will try to plop it up here so you guys know. I bought that book. It wasn't working. We got all about reading in our Timber Doodle kit. It wasn't working. My daughter, the concept was not sticking in my daughter's head. The way she was taught in pre-K in school, before COVID shut down, was not the same at all. What I was trying to teach her wasn't making sense to her, and instead of slowing down, at one point I did start over, all about reading. I stopped the book, shut the book, and started from the front and started over. But 3 weeks into starting over the book, I said, oh, it must be all about reading's not working. And I bought a different curriculum. And we blew through that curriculum. So I bought the next curriculum, and she blew through that curriculum. And I bought the next one, only to realize that she still couldn't read after 3 curriculums. Two of the three, because she did their pre-K, their kindergarten, and most of the first grade. So she had done almost entirely 3 of their units, and she still couldn't actually read. She could not read on her own at all. And when I realized that, I picked up All About Reading where I had shut it previously, and that was in first grade. And she was in first grade at that point. So we picked up All About Reading 1, which was the kindergarten level, and we started over. So, and then I had my baby, or Emma. We had Emma in first grade when she was in first grade. So that slowed us down on All About Reading. So my biggest regret is that she's only behind in reading because of my doing. I did that. And it's because I did not follow through with slowing down and sticking to something longer than, I just didn't stick with it. And by flipping to another one that was fun and engaging for her, All About Reading is fun and engaging for her now. It was my stress that was causing her stress. And it was my need to finish those awful paragraph pages. Let me see if I can find one for you. I kept thinking that she had to finish her flashcards each week. Like, if she didn't have it measurized by the end of the week, then we couldn't move on to the next level. And that was wrong with me. And I was like expecting her to read these. And the thing I noticed reading other reviews on like Facebook and stuff of other parents and saying, how do we do this? What do we do? Is these warm-up sheets are horrible. I love All About Reading, but these are horrible. And the more I read in All About Reading, the more I realized even they don't want us to actually just sit and make our child read every single word. Like, I had suggestions in the back of the book. In the back of the teacher's manual, it says, like, put a Skittle on top of each thing and let your child eat the Skittle, read the phrase. Eat the Skittle, read the phrase. Why didn't I know that? Why didn't I read? If I had read the teacher's manual properly, instead of just opening it and expecting I had to do every single little thing, I would have been fine. And my daughter would be on par with reading. So, I'm basically playing catch up at this point. She's basically done with All About Reading, or All About Reading 1 at this point. We'll start All About Reading 2. We'll go all the way through the summer with it. And my goal is to be starting All About Reading 3 with parts, maybe mid-year next year. And she'll be doing Mazdas as well too, as long as it's not too much. Because it's actually not hard for her if I follow through with what I'm supposed to be doing. So I guess that's my biggest regret, is not doing it the way I should have done it. By giving up too soon, and by ended up making her behind by having her do 3 years of a curriculum that wasn't working, that didn't actually teach her how to read. Yes, I was able to go through each lesson each day with my child in that curriculum. And All About Reading is 20 minutes, regardless of how long it takes you to do one lesson. If it takes you 4 weeks to get through one lesson, it takes you 4 weeks to get through one lesson. You only do 20 minutes. And my concern was, hey, why aren't we doing one lesson a day? Hey, how come we're not doing at least one lesson a week? And because I jumped ship and went to the other company where I could do one lesson a day with my child, she's behind. So that's on me. It was silly of me is what it was. But that's my biggest regret. So I will leave the link to the Chan 7's YouTube below, and I will leave a link to the playlist below. And if you have any questions for me, please go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys next time.